A lot of Kenyans have asked themselves this question: how does the money then move?
Proud to announce to you the first artificial intelligence road that will be completed in less than 1 year. The government is setting aside 10 billion for the completion of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of Kenyans have asked themselves this question: how does the money then move from these politicians? When government gets a loan, money moves from the bank accounts where the money is deposited to projects. Now, how is this money eventually distributed? Most of the people that, let's say, we would say the people that are given this money to do the construction, it seems like they are withdrawing it to do some project, like to buy materials, to pay engineers, and to do things. So money is usually approved for projects to be done, but on the ground, projects are never done. So how does the money move? Now, this money is distributed among individuals. Some of it is really large sums of money. So when this money appears in the accounts of individuals, like at a glance, there would be questions that would be raised where they got all this money from. So what they usually do is they need a way to move the money through legal channels without raising any suspicion. And here comes the church.
Milioni 4, milioni 7, milioni 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, milioni 20. Milioni 20.
That is why you see politicians never leaving the churches. You know, with churches, they are allowed to take money as donations from congregations. Every single Sunday, we have members of the congregation. Raising hands, praying with their hands up in the skies, asking God for everything that they need. And the pastors really position, the prosperity pastors to be specific, position their sermon in a way that to provoke the generosity of people. They preach.
Kama 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Najua uchumi ni mbaya. Kabla ikuwe baya ulikuwa wapi? Mnasema serikali ni baya. Mmoja aliwapatia maziwa, mbona mku nunua ndege? Uhuru alikuwako alikupatia nini? Don't tell me about government, tell me about God. Something is wrong between you and God. Nimetumiwa na mtu 100,000 masimu, na mwingine akaniwekea 125 na mafuta iko juu. Sasa mimi nikikaa hapa nitakufukuza. Katika hekalu utoe sadaka. Na sadaka hizi alisema atoe ni nyingi, si sadaka ya shilingi kadhaa. Na huyo hafanyi biashara, hakuna kitu anafanya.
Prosperity and they preach faith. So this is where some of the politicians now go, because they know churches' money is never touched. It is tax exempt, is rarely scrutinized, and is regarded as a place where the public makes sure it is sacred. public reveres people attacking the church. And so the politicians take advantage of these situations. And we remember an example of Sudi, who allegedly donated 20 million Kenya shillings. He stated that this money was donations that he had raised from friends who wanted him to support a good cause, a cause of constructing church. And many Kenyans were outraged by this act, and they were asking themselves, if a member of parliament could raise 20 million Kenya shillings, why would they not raise this amount of money to build schools or hospitals in their local areas? So this donation of Sudi was one that raised a lot of questions. After all, people were not supposed to suspect that it was money being donated to corruption, because this is a place of worship.
How can a normal member of parliament aende katika harambee na atoe milioni 20 kwa kanisa moja, na atoke hapo aende kwa kanisa inayofuata anapatia padri gari mpya ya Prado?
Mkarabati mwenyewe pigia yeye makofi kwanza. Naona kwanza mkarabati. Naona kwanza mkarabati. Haya moja. 1,100, 300, 700, 800, milioni 1, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 1.9, 2 million, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 3 million shillings. Good job. Mrs. Oscar. Mrs. Oscar Sudi amezindikisha bwana yake na 100,000 shillings.
So it is assumed that this kind of donation is basically coming back to the community, but through the churches. So they make large donations of money into the churches. A politician can take money from any source, corrupt dealings, which is usually handed over to them in terms of cash. But because the church bank accounts, nobody asks questions. That is where the money gains its legitimacy. So when Kenyans were asking why Sudi would be donating 20 million Kenya shillings to build a church, honestly, that was recorded as a community donation in the church accounts. But how that money moves after that is something that is left to be desired. Once the money is in the hands of the church, it is effectively laundered. Some of it can be laundered to international accounts that belong to the church as aid, which ends up being sent into these politicians' offshore accounts in either Cayman Island or Switzerland or Panama. From there now the money is safe, it is cleaned up and of its origin, and it is untraceable to Kenyan authorities. So the churches endorse politicians because they stand to benefit. This money that is usually donated through their churches, it is not like money that ends up being not, they get their own share. For many church leaders in Kenya, aligning with politicians is a very good way to secure their influence and their resources too, because pastors know that generous politicians can bring large sums of money, not only for church projects, but also for personal gain. While some of us may see it as an act of faith when the politicians bring this money, pastors know the truth, and that is why they endorse politicians, and people like Sudi can come anytime they feel like to bring their rewards into the churches. In exchange for the donation, pastors offer this politician a platform. So they show them as people that have a lot of faith in God, and at the same time they make sure that they appeal to the their congregation, of the good act of this person. So even if they don't get development, the people of the area will always say, at least this man built us a church. What they don't know is that this money never ends up in the church as part of the construction. Actually, this money is always money that is meant for the politician to be cleaned up so that it can become legal money that the politicians can use. So pastors may experience their churches. Okay, we've seen pastors expand their churches and live very luxurious lives, even fund international travels under the guise of religious duty. In this unholy alliance, both sides win, except, of course, for the public, the congregation, whose stolen funds fuels their corrupt lifestyle. So here we are talking about the pastors and the politicians living a very luxurious lifestyle. Allegedly, money is always donated to them to build churches. The offering is usually given to the church, and this is basically to help clean their dirty money that is laundered. It is cleansed of its corruption origin and safely hidden somewhere for the politicians to take up the money much later when they are out of their seats, or probably to build wealth for their own generations. So when Kenyans are asking where this money goes, it is money that has been kept through those places where we go to clean our conscience every Sunday. And this is kept somewhere for them to come and take much later. For politicians like Sudi, the benefits of using churches for laundering money are very clear. First, it allows them to legitimately own corrupt wealth. So when the anti-corruption is looking for this money, they never really can find it easily, because the place where they want to find the money is a place like the churches where we know it is not supposed to be touched. Instead of hiding this cash in personal safes or risking scrutiny from banks, they just pass the money through the church and the pastors clean it up.
Abrahamic blessings. Kama unataka baraka yoyote iko connected na Ibrahim na you are not a tither, wewe wachana naye. Abraham ni tajiri, na utajiri unapatikana katika Ibrahim. Faith katika Ibrahim. Kupangiwa mpango wa kifo alafu unabadilika, kondoo inakufa kwa sababu ya mtoto. Ibrahim.
Moja. William Samuel. 300. 400. 600. 700. 800. 900. Milioni moja. Kichumba Murkomen. Moja. 1,100. 200. 300. 400. 600. 700. 900. Milioni moja.
So once these funds are cleaned up and moved to offshore accounts, then where can the anti-corruption find this money? That is why they cannot solve any problem of these politicians. Now, public relations is very beneficial to these politicians, and that is what the church helps them perpetuate. By donating all these monies to these churches, politicians present themselves as generous people and God-fearing people. We've seen this being perpetuated in our communities and our society generally. The donation boosts their popularity and it shields them from criticism. They are seen as people that fear God, because of course the Church of God and the men of God are never touched. In Kenya, never touch a man of God. That is it's the anthem in the hearts of very many Christians. Even when we accuse politicians of being corrupt, we never point to the church. We are always overprotective of the church being a part of these corruption scandals. In any way, when have you ever had the anti-corruption knocking the doors of these churches to find out where this money goes or comes from. Is there even a law that allows them to do that anyway? So now, there is a sense of protection that comes from aligning politicians with religious leaders. It is known that pastors, with their loyal congregation and influence in the society, they have a powerful base that can support politicians to do whatever they wish. By securing the backing of the church, politicians always win a way to insulate themselves from political attacks.
Anaweza kuchukua tithe ya brother yake na asiulizwe. Anaweza kuchukua tithe ya sister yake. Hivyo ndivyo Biblia inasema. Kwa hivyo mtu akishaingizwa kwa ukuhani na kuwa na sign kwenye maisha yake ya kwamba Mungu ako na yeye, huyo mtu hata sister anaweza kumpatia tithe na Mungu aikubali.
Milioni 4, milioni 7, milioni 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, milioni 20. Milioni 20.